So today I'm joined by Lara Bradley. Lara is someone that absolutely embodies what it means to take control of your career and build a business on your terms. Lara joined our business with no sales experience, came from a lettings background. But in just 2 years, she's built a thriving estate agency business whilst balancing being a mum of two. And today we're going to dive into her journey, listen to some of the stories that she's got, understand her mindset and see how that anything can be possible if you apply yourself well. So Lara, thank you so much for joining me and rushing your way into London today. I know we've got a short moment of time with you, but really, really appreciate you joining us. So to kick things off, tell me the most ridiculous or unexpected situation you've experienced so far in your estate agency career.
That's quite a good one, actually. So it's something that happened to me quite recently, actually last month. I took on a property that had been on the market with another agent for 6 months. Took it on, I sold a house just across the road, so I was quite confident. I've had about 8 viewings booked on one day. I'd been to the property prior with the owner, and it's a tenanted property. Okay. The tenant has got a budgie. I'm petrified of birds, by the way, absolutely petrified of birds. So when I went to have a look and meet the landlord there, the budgie was sort of there, minding his own business, whatever. I told the tenant about the block viewing I had on this particular Saturday. I assumed he would put the budgie in a cage because obviously there's going to be a lot of people going in and out of the property. I didn't want to risk it flying out or anything like that. Turn up to the property, quite a few people waiting outside, and turns out he didn't put the budgie in a cage. So I had to navigate probably, 6 or 7 viewings with a budgie flying around the front room.
Flying about.
And I'm petrified of birds. So that was quite interesting. I had to sort of like go outside, explain to them, by the way, the tenants are here. They've got a budgie. Anyone, I hope you're okay with that. And we got through it, but that was quite a funny experience.
That is different. That really is different. I've never known anybody to keep a budgie permanently outside of a cage, and the tenant wasn't even there.
No, the tenant was there.
We're hanging around.
Was there. At one point, he was sat on his shoulder eating food out of his hand. I don't think they've even got a cage for it. Wow. I think it just sort of like...
On the loose all the time. Crazy. Anyway, the bonkers world of estate agency. There it is.
I know. All the time. Every day is different.
So you transitioned from a career in lettings into sales. Obviously, it is a step. There are some transferable skills there, but what motivated that move for you? What made you decide that actually you wanted to do something more?
I think for me, I've always been interested in sales, and I've always worked closely in offices where there's been a sales team nearby. I've done sales viewings now and again. I've always been interested in it. And I think it's something that I've wanted to try for a long time. I just haven't really had the opportunity to do that. Moving to a new area and obviously starting my own business, it seemed the right time to delve into that, really. I can't lie, I was really nervous about it, but it turns out I actually knew a lot more about it than I really thought I did. So
I was going to say, was there like transferable skills that you were able to just cross over?
Yeah, I think when it comes to kind of like qualifying applicants, listing properties, I'm very particular with listing the properties. I used to do that a lot. When I was in lettings, I used to take charge of the marketing. So I had a lot of transferable skills from listing, qualifying buyers, applicants, and just generally, I think people skills are built up. Yeah, really good people skills.
Good.
In that,
in my just transfer people to people, right? That's we're making people's homes. Whether you're renting a home or buying a home, still dealing with people, which is the most important part of the process. Brilliant, and you can definitely see that in your business that those skills you were picked up really quite easily because they are transferable, which is great.
It definitely gave me a leg up the letting side of things, more so than I expected, really.
Good. And obviously, as I said in the intro, you're a busy mum of 2, family. Your partner's got a business of his own as well. Tell me, how have you found navigating this business as opposed to what you were doing before around family life?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think, first of all, I wish I'd done this way sooner. I think, by no means is it easy. And I think as a mum, you know, when you're smashing work,
Yep.
you feel like you're failing at motherhood. So you know, you have that to battle with, but it does mean, you know, I can fit work around my children. I do get the guilt sometimes that, you know, when I'm at home and I'm like, oh, I just need to send an email or take this call. Can you just wait 1 second? I feel bad because I think if I was at work, they wouldn't see that side, and I'm home, I'm mum. But then I think, well, if I was at work, I wouldn't be at home now. I think, you know, I'm still mastering the art of balancing for sure. But I think, you know, recently I've got into a really good routine. My eldest has started school, which helps massively. And I do find that during the day, you know, I'm on appointments and doing probably some admin if I've got time. And then once they get home from school, I'm with them. And then when they go to bed, I'm back on again.
Pick it back up.
Yeah, which actually works really well for some clients.
Yeah.
People that work nights or shift work. Sometimes I'm speaking to people at midnight and they're happy with that. I'm happy with that. So it works.
Well, that's great, right? That actually it proves that, the 9 to 6 that we all worked previously isn't necessarily how on the time spent that when people want to be able to communicate, and you can now adapt to that, and it actually all of a sudden now fits in with your life as well, which is lovely. So that's nice, and you're right. It's a mastering art, and I don't think anybody's mastered it. So I think it's unachievable, but I'm glad that you've been able to balance that nicely.
Yeah.
So tell me about a time when on this journey that you thought, I'm not sure I can do this. Was there a moment of doubt as you went about building this business?
Yeah, for sure. I think I launched 2 years ago in an area that I didn't know I didn't know anyone that owned a house in my area. I didn't have any solicitor contacts. I didn't have anyone at all that I knew really. And I started and I was really excited. I had an overwhelming sense that this was what I should do. So I knew that I was doing the right thing at the beginning, and I was excited and I threw myself into it, and I was balancing. My youngest was sort of at home full time then. I had no childcare for him. So I was balancing that. I sold my first property quite quickly, which was a massive boost for me. And then that went on for some time, and it got to kind of the end of the middle part of the first year, I would say, when I started to think what had happened is I'd got a few instructions and they'd all fallen through for various different reasons. Tough market. And when I launched, it was really tough. I remember saying to some people, I've done this at the worst time. And I got told quite often, you haven't. If you can get through this, you'll be so much stronger for it. And looking back now, that's absolutely true. But when I was in the thick of that, when the market was really tough, it was I had instructions, listings, but buyers were really hard to come by. I was doing like 20 viewings on some properties. Now, you know, sometimes it's like less than 5. To find a buyer. But I remember a few properties I'd sold had fallen through, some of them like 4 times, because buyers are having issues with mortgage or problems at survey, or they just changed their mind. And I just thought felt like I sold the same 3 or 4 properties 3 or 4 times. And I was thinking, God, you know, and obviously the money wasn't coming in. And I was doubting myself. I thought, have I made the right decision? And I was in too deep at that point. And I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I just knew I had to keep going, and I did, and I pushed through that. And I'm so glad that I did, because what a different situation I'm in now.
Yes. Oh, you have. Yeah. And like I said, you built a fantastic business. That momentum has carried from one year to the next. And that hard work and tenacity that you'd shown in those difficult times have led you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all is almost like I had to go through that to get to this point, because I obviously really appreciate now what I've been through to get to this point. And I think when you're a self-employed agent, you can never take your foot off the gas. You can't go, well, I'm got a great pipeline, I can relax. You're constantly looking for the next opportunity. But yeah, you know, when the stuff starts coming to you now and you're not having to actually graft for it, it's so rewarding.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And in the way in which you deal with clients, you took a very deliberate step in building your business to ensure that you dealt with every person in a personable way. You gave that personal touch. So how has this approach affected your business, and do you think that that's appreciated by the customers now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where a lot of my referrals come through, that personal element. I think it's really hard to achieve if you're working for a high street agent, say, it's really hard to achieve. You're dealing with a lot of properties, a lot of different sellers, buyers. Personally, the one thing that I just try to remember and try to keep at the forefront of my mind is that moving house, and I've bought a house, I've moved house. Anyone that has done knows it's a stressful process, and how much of it takes over your whole entire life for however long it takes. You're completely absorbed by it. And I always, whenever I go out to meet anyone or whenever I'm dealing with anyone, I'm always keep that at the forefront of my mind, what a big deal it is. And people, they might only do it some people might once every 20 years or something like that. So I really try to put myself in the client's shoes, seller and buyer, to be honest with you. And I find that really helps.
Yeah.
But I think, just being empathetic, listening to people, understanding their concerns or, anything like that really helps. If people feel that they can trust you and they, you're honest, I think that you've done a good job.
And I think that shines through in the way in which they then communicate with you. The sort of reviews that you've received off the back of the work that you've done, it's clearly appreciated. So I think it's a wonderful approach, and I congratulate you for taking that on quite deliberately. I think is one of the things. I think that's quite important, that was a deliberate part of your strategy, and I really do think that's paid off and will bring you referrals forever, because actually you're just creating this tribe of people that you've dealt with really nicely, and actually they will back you in the future.
Yeah,
Go on.
It definitely was deliberate, but I think also it's genuine. And I think that's the difference. It's not forced. I don't have to keep telling myself, be personal, be kind to people. It's genuine.
Yeah,
it comes from a genuine place, and I think people feel that, and that that you can't learn that, really. I don't think.
No. I know what you mean. Yeah, it comes from within, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about social media. You again took quite a deliberate approach with the way in which you went about marketing and utilizing social media. Could you tell us some of the things that you did with that in marketing the properties and how that's affected your business?
Yeah, social media is a good one, because you either love or hate it. I think it's one of those things. Personally, I don't enjoy doing it, but I realised very early on in the process that it was something that I had to do, and I had to get comfortable with posting and putting myself in front of the camera, which was difficult for me. I think just the way that I market properties, I'm quite particular about it. I am a perfectionist and I like things done properly. And then that helps with regards to the social media aspect, because I've got the materials there to use. I think I'm still learning how to navigate that world, but definitely I think I put a post out quite early on of just my face and like a paragraph and some bullet points about what makes me different from other agents. And someone contacted me straight away off the back of that. They had to evict a tenant, so they dealt with a local agent and they had a bad experience with them through evicting their tenant. And she said, "I just saw your face and you looked nice, and I thought I'll contact you." And I went out and after a few sales fall through, I sold her flat.
Brilliant.
And I've just sold her mum's property as well. So that was just from a random post that I just thought, do you know what, I'm just going to put this out there. And I got two instructions effectively out of it. Yeah. So yeah, I find social media not enjoyable and quite hard to navigate, but I don't know, I'm clearly doing something right.
It's all part of your business though, right? That's great. So if you were to go back and look at that very first sale transaction that you did in your business, and you had to give yourself some advice, would you do anything differently?
I don't think I would, actually, to be honest with you. I'm quite proud of my first sales transaction, because it was one that it was an ex-colleague of mine, someone I used to work with, and she'd had the property on the market with two agents prior, and she'd actually sold it twice and it had fallen through. And so she just reached out to me. She heard that I'd launched the business, and she knew that I didn't have any sales experience. And she said, do you want to give it a go, with her words? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Give it, let me. And I sold it within a week. Sold it really quickly. It wasn't a straightforward transaction. It was a nervous first-time buyer. But I don't think I would do anything different. I think I learned a lot from that transaction. But for me, communication is the key to everything. I think as long as you're communicating with people, really, the rest is quite straightforward. If you come across an issue, you just have to work out how to overcome it. But as long as everybody's knows what's going on at all times, then it's half the battle, really. And I think that's all that I did. I always set up a WhatsApp group with, if there's multiple sellers or buyers, I always set up a WhatsApp group and post regular updates in there. It did get hairy towards the end. The mortgage money was actually held up for audit, so we couldn't complete on time. We completed 4 days late.
No way.
Which apparently, I didn't know at the time, but agents that I spoke to have said that they've been doing it for 25 years and that never happens. That happened on my first transaction. So that was really difficult. But I don't think I would do anything different.
Good. Well, it sounds like you've had the testing times early on with the tough market and some unusual circumstances, but you've really been able to strive. And people that said it to you at the time are absolutely right. If you can build it now, as the market becomes in your favour, your experience has been developed, your market and your presence in your market has built over that time, and you're now really getting the reward of the hard work that you put in. So that's brilliant. Well done. If you were to give one piece of advice to somebody about to go on this journey and either come from a similar business like you did and into a self-employed environment, what would one tip be that you would give to them?
I think being honest, I think I was a bit naive in the fact that I thought that I would earn money sooner than I did. And I think the market had a bit to play with that. It took a bit longer than I anticipated. But I think, depending on the reasons why you're doing this, don't give up, I think is the main thing. As long as you lay really good, strong foundations, then I think you'll be fine. You just have to keep going. You have to go through that painful period of time to come out the other side and like you said, reap the rewards, I guess. So it would be, don't give up. And as a side one as well, have a bit of savings to keep you going. I was lucky my partner supported me. But for me, I came from a well-paid job and it was difficult mentally for me adjusting to that. But God, I'm so glad I did now. It really is rewarding when you get to a good place, but you have to go through. It's not going to be straightforward. You have to go through the ups and downs. And even now, I still go through ups and downs. That's inevitable, really.
Exactly.
But I think for me, the pros outweigh the cons 100%.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you fitting us into your busy life. And it was just wonderful to get your story on tape. So thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
I-A-D